Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra, and here on my channel we are all about real makeup for real life and real people. As you may have assumed by the title, today I'm going to bring to you 4 looks using the Pat Mcgrath Holiday palette. This is the Mothership Mega Celestial Divinity palette. Long name, lots of shades. I did supplement for some of the looks with my Tarte Clay Play Volume 1 palette. It just has a nice array of browns and gray and black and the whole thing. And typically I wouldn't do that for a review, but when thinking about it, I know myself, and that is what I would do with this palette in my real life. So that's how I wanted to bring the review to you today. So I hope you guys enjoy the 4 looks I've created for you today, and let's get into it. Let's get started because I cannot wait to get this palette on my eyeballs. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with this lighter pink matte, which is Venusian Orchid. I'll try my best to remember to tell you the shades. I have my eyes primed with MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. And I'm just going to start this off as a transition shade, something for the other shades that I intend to use to sort of blend over or blend with. The next shade I'm going to go into is the second matte in this palette. It's called Venomous Void, I believe. And it looks sort of berry. I'm gonna use the same brush as the first shade, but I'm gonna start it more so on the outer part of the eye and sort of try to diffuse this as much as possible. Same brush going back into the original Orchid matte shade and just blend one more time. I'm gonna take this little pencil brush right here and go back into a Venomous Void, taking it about 2/3 across. And then I also want to take this on the outer V of the eye, just a little bit of definition here. And I'm gonna use my phalanges to apply the second to last shade here in this row, which is Violet Void. And it's so pretty. Definitely has some glitter particles, but it also has a really pretty shift to it. So I'm gonna put that over about 2/3 of the lid and just really press it on there and then kind of just leave it. Let it be. Take the tiniest bit of this same shade on that same pencil brush that we used on the lower lash line and just barely, like on the outer third, just add a little depth on the lower lash line. And then we are going into this last shade in the second row, which is called Electron. It's another duochrome looking shade. Actually, it's probably more of duochrome than the first shade we used. And we're gonna put this on the inner half or so of the eye, and we're going to layer it over this blue shade that we just applied very carefully. And then I want to also try that same shade Wet. So I'm gonna pick some up on my brush and spray. Yeah, that definitely brightened things up a little bit. And there's nothing really in the palette that I would like to use for an inner corner highlight, so I'm going to take my Essence Pure Nude highlighter, which is the highlighter I have on today, and just ever so slightly highlight that inner corner. This is the completed look. I'm going to pop off of here, do some liner, throw the hair into some kind of style, and a lip, and I will come back and let you know how it all worked out. All right, I am back. Here's the completed look. You may notice it's a little different. As you're gonna see in the demo right now that I'll pop up on the screen, I did go ahead and take this first shade in the last row called Cosmik with a K, and apply that to the center of my eyelids just for a little something. The look felt so dark. That being said though, I don't see any fallout, little to no fallout. Wow, the hair. I really enjoyed the shades that I used today. I'm really excited to keep working with this palette, so stay tuned for look number 2. Started off today by priming my eyes with MAC Paint Pot and Painterly as always, and I did not set my base. I also contoured the eye or set things up in the crease with my Tarte Clay Play using these two shades right here, Journey and Stone. And now we're ready to get into the palette. I want to do a green look today, so I'm going to start things off with the shade Megabyte over most of the lid. Because this palette doesn't have a ton of matte shades, I may continue to dip into the Tarte Clay Play just because it is a good all matte palette to set things up for a neutral crease. And then I'm gonna use this shade, which is Galactic Gold, as a halo. And this has a bit of a shifty situation going on, and I think it's gonna be really beautiful with this green. All right, so what I like to do with a little bit more of a chunky eyeshadow, if you will, and or to make things pop or really stand out, is I'll take any kind of setting spray, spray this on the back of my hand so that my hand is dampened. Then I pick up the shadow on my index finger, nice amount like this, and I just pick up a little bit of the setting spray and apply it that way. And it's kind of the similar way, you know, that you would apply a shadow with a brush and setting spray, but I just think this works better. All right, and then I'm just gonna take this little brush that I used earlier on the lower lash line and go back into the green shade Megabyte right here and just run it along the lower lash line a little bit, just to kind of make things mesh a little better. I do definitely see a little bit of glitter fallout, and I feel a little bit of it in my eyeballs. I'm gonna pop off of hair, finish off the eyes, throw on a lip, something with the hair, and I will be right back to give you my thoughts on this look. All right, we are back, and this is the completed look. I did line my eyes just a little bit with a brown pencil liner and finished the lashes off with the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effect. And then for lips, I used my Janta Blue lip liner in the shade Brown Sugar. I haven't used that one in a minute, but I love that, especially for fall. And then my lipstick is the Charlotte Tilbury Hot Lips 2 in the shade Glowing Gen. I think this is a really pretty look. I will say that the shade Galactic Gold that I used down here in the bottom row, Fallout City, even with the setting spray, but overall I'm really happy. I was able to sweep away most of the fallout. I do not have any clue what's going on with my hair today, but c'est la vie. And that is all I have for today's look. Stay tuned because look 3 is coming at you right now. We're back for a third look with the Pat Mcgrath super long name palette. And I have just got to put this shade on my eyeballs. It's so interesting. It looks red in the palette, but it's definitely got some shifty business going on there. Anyhoozle, let's get into it. I did go ahead and put a little transition in my crease here with my Tarte Clay Play palette using the shade Journey, and we may dip back into that at some point, but for right now we are going to apply this shade all over the lid. All right, I'm going to take my original fluffy brush that I used for the transition shade. I'm just kind of blend this out. If need be, I will add some more shimmer some more of the matte shade that I used in the transition. But the great thing about a duochrome is that they usually have like some kind of a base color, and so when you layer them all over the lid and then sort of buff it up into the crease, you end up with something that looks quite different than what's on the lid, which is really cool. And then I do think I'm going to go ahead and pick up that same shade from the Pat McGrath palette on a brush, and I'm gonna spray it just to make sure we have that really beautiful duochrome effect established before I put anything else on the eye. But I'm gonna start patting this on the outer part of the lid. I think for the inner part of the lid, I'm gonna go in with the second shade in the palette, which is called Bronze Nebula. I'm gonna pick that up on a flat brush and just kind of apply this to the innermost part of the lid. That's not gonna have much of a brightening effect, but that's okay. I think I'll also take that shade on the tip of this flat brush and run it along the lower lash line. I do still want a pop of brightness on the very inner part of the lid. So I'm gonna go in with this gold right here, which is Lunar Champagne. So apparently it's a champagne, not a gold, but it is really pretty looking and looks a little chunky. So I think I'm going to spray it. And I'm just going to apply this on the very innermost part of the lid. Yeah, much more brightened up there. All right, that is it. Eyeballs are finished. I'm gonna pop off of here, do some mascara, a lip, something about the hair, some funky earrings, and I will be right back to tell you my final thoughts on this look. All right, we are back and the face is finished. I did finish off the eyes with the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effect mascara. And then for lips, I used the MAC Whirl pencil and lipstick. For gloss, I used the Ulta Beauty Tinted Juice Infused Lip Oil in the shade Buff Babe. I love this look. This eyeshadow is so interesting. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. It's kind of orange, it's kind of red, it kind of shifts green or gold. I don't know. It's magical. It's one of the shades that actually made me, you know, I was taken aback by what it actually looked like when I swatched it out, because it looks like a red eyeshadow in the pan. But it's absolutely stunning. A fantastic one and done eyeshadow, if you ask me, and just really beautiful, fall appropriate, holiday appropriate, and I like how this look came out. So stay tuned because the last look is coming at you right now. The fourth and final look with the Pat McGrath Mothership Mega Celestial Divinity palette. And today I really want to use this bottom shade right here, which is called Dragonfly. But I did go ahead and start off the look again with my Tarte Clay Play palette. I used a little bit of this shade Journey and a little bit of this bronzer shade called Terracotta. I do think I want to start things off by deepening up with this burgundy shade up here, which is called Major Mahogany. This shade is very, very deep. And I just want to kind of place this on the outer V. And even though these mattes feel really dry in the texture when you put your finger into the shadow or when you swatch the shadows. I'm finding that they actually perform really well. Sometimes when they're dry, they're just gonna blend away or look crusty on the eye, but sometimes you get lucky, and I think this is a really beautiful shade. I'm gonna take the brush that I used for my crease and just kind of soften things a little bit. I'm gonna take that same shade on this little flat definer brush, just a tiny bit, and go ahead and connect the upstairs with the downstairs. I'm gonna take this little pencil brush that I used on the lower lash line earlier with the terracotta bronzer shade and just sort of blend that out. Now for some fun. I just have to try this shade right here, which is Fuchsia Shock. I'm going to put this on like the middle of the lid with the phalange, of course. This is such a pretty shade, and I'm really happy to have a shade like this back in my collection. I used to have a shade similar, not as vibrant and beautiful, but similar to this in my Too Faced Clover palette, and the shade was called TF Mascot, in case you have that palette. But I loved this purple, but I really didn't use the palette overall anymore, and my daughter was desperate to have it, so I went ahead and gave the palette to her. It's not like I don't have access to it, but the one shade that kind of gave me pause on getting rid of that palette was that purple shade that is so similar to this, and this is just so much better. Now for the star of the show, I'm gonna go into this shade right here called Dragonfly. It is definitely a duochrome. I said that weird. It's a duochrome. And I had seen someone else layer this over Fuchsia Shock, and I have to try it. So that's what we're doing. Oh, I just felt a little fallout. It's okay. I'm actually going to go in with the phalange and try. Yeah. Oh, that's better. I think I do want to try wetting that Dragonfly shade. I just want to make sure I am getting everything, every bit out of this shadow that it has to offer. There we go. All right, that's a wrap. This is the final look. Pop off of here, do some mascara, a lip, the hair, the whole thing, and then I will come back and give you my final thoughts based on the 4 looks that I've created with this palette. All right, we are back, and this is the actual completed look. I finished off the eyes with my Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk eyeliner. This is like a burgundy brown liner, so I thought it would go nice with that mahogany shade on the outer corner. And then I used my Essence Lash Princess mascara, and for the lips I lined with my Holy Grail lip liner from MAC. This is in the shade Whirl. And then if you watched my video on Tuesday, I talked about the type of lippies that I'm reaching for this fall, and that is 90s brown based lippies. And so today I used the Fenty Gloss Bomb in the shade Hot Chocolate, and I really like this color. I feel like I need more though. I've been drinking coffee in the meantime. So let's talk about the palette. I counted up, I believe I used 12 out of the 18 shades, and I don't know. The things I would say is that the mattes actually surprised me. They looked nicer and performed nicer than they felt. They felt really dry to the touch in the swatches. There's definitely a lot of different textures in here, and speaking on texture, if you have textured eyelids and that's something that bothers you, this is going to emphasize that texture, so you may want to skip out on this palette. I think of the shades that I used in this palette, there weren't any that I disliked, which is always a plus. There's definitely like your more metallic formula, and then you have more of like your chunky, flaky, topper type formula. I don't mind that, and as I showed in the first look, you can take a chunky duochrome toppery flaky shade like this one right here, which is Cosmik, and you can spray a little setting spray on the back of your hand, pick this up on your finger, tap into the setting spray, and apply it that way. That's really going to help keep things where they're supposed to stay, as well as just give a little bit of a smoother finish to the look. That being said, I did experience some fallout with this palette, but nothing that I couldn't sweep away easily with my powder brush. I didn't experience any fallout with the mattes, so I appreciate that. And overall, I'm just looking forward to carrying on and using this palette. I think this is a really fun holiday palette coming from Pat Mcgrath. I think, you know, I don't need a palette that's like red and green or things like that. I think just glitter and shine and all of that good stuff, richness, all of these shades, you know, feed into what I'm looking for holiday. I don't want to go out looking like a Christmas tree, but I do want to glam up and have that shine factor and all of that, maybe a little glitter, and I think this really does lend to my aesthetic on that. Overall, I really like this palette. This was my first experience, in case you didn't catch that, with Pat Mcgrath eyeshadows, so I can't speak to the quality of this or the textures or consistency of this palette with her other palettes, but I will say that my experience was very good, if not great, with this palette. I'm really excited to keep using it, and let me know if you guys want to see any other looks with this palette, any specific looks. Thank you so much for spending probably a good chunk of your day here with me today. Absolutely love sharing with you guys the looks that I come up with here in my beauty room, and today was no different. If you did like today's video, I would really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out here on the platform. We get to meet new people down in the comments, and I really hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days, and I will see you in my next video on Saturday.